When you walk into a comic store, do you see little children reading the comics? Maybe, but chances are you see guys who are in their 20s and 30s there, or even older, which I think is really sad and pathetic. Think about it for a second. It's something that everyone knows really, that these days, no one really reads comic books anymore. It's a far cry from how things were decades before, when comics had millions upon millions of readers. But as time went on, readership was lost without sufficient numbers to keep readership high. Comic book publishers made more money in decades past and had to adjust themselves today for modern markets. So how do publishers keep readers in, even though some are too old to be reading, and try to attract new readers? Well, with eye-catching artwork. Sex sells. A good artist can bring readers and money to a comic book. I've even heard that some artists are paid more than writers. I'm not sure that this is true, but I can definitely believe it. If you saw this kind of artwork in a comic, would you not want to buy it? Would your eyes not be drawn to it? The sexing or cheesecake of comics, I think, really began in the 1990s, when talented artists began to enter the industry. There were already skilled artists there, but this was when artists who were talented at drawing curvy women began to appear. I won't name names, but readers know who I'm talking about. In all seriousness and truth, the sexing and cheesecake of comic book heroines and villainesses is a bit degrading to women. I mean, come on. Wonder Woman, Power Girl, She-Hulk, Spider-Woman, Phoenix, for example, are all veteran characters and should not be drawn scantily clad when they've had good writers in ages gone by. Which brings up another good point. I mentioned in another comic book discussion that there is no continuity in comics anymore because of bad writers. Yes, some writers can have good work, but some would say that besides a few runs, most of their work has been subpar. Now, I'm not against some good artwork, but that should not be the main focus of a comic book. I mean, I'm here to read a good story. That's what I paid for. And with that in mind, another reason why people may not be reading comics anymore is because they are so expensive now. When comic books first came out, the price was just a few cents, in America anyway, but now you have to pay a considerable amount. $3.25 the last time I checked. In Canada, it's even higher, and in the United Kingdom, it's about the same price as it is in the United States of America. So what do? You don't buy. Loss of revenue in the comic industry means that the price of a standard issue needs to be raised to make up for the loss of difference. This is just for a single issue. Specials and double-sized issues are even more. I've even heard of $4.25 or even above $5 for a single issue. But with the decline of readership, I can expect the number to rise even more. So where do people draw the line? How much is too much? When would you stop buying because of price? There are those readers who don't even buy comics anymore. They just simply download them off the internet for free. This pushes the loss of revenue up even further. That adding to the already high price. Some might be saying, it's just $5, nothing to get angry about. But readers like to buy their issue in bunches. It all adds up. Let's say that you buy 10 comics at $3.25 each. Add all that up, and it's a considerable amount for a bunch of comic books. Money talks, as they say here in America. So what are people talking about then? Well, I remember reading one theory on a website a few years ago that this person was saying that all of the storyline events that DC or Marvel did were to try and bring up publicity and have readers buy all the issues and all of the tie-ins, which add up for even more money to the publishers. Which makes sense because these so-called events with the headlines that this promises to change the DC universe or the Marvel universe will never be the same again. But it is. Even after all these major universal-wide events are done, these events can be retconned and not be considered in continuity. So in other words, what just happened is not a part of the official history anymore, and all those comics that you just bought are basically worthless. Is sexing up female comic book characters or making useless story arcs completely the fault of the publishers? No. In today's world, young kids have more things to put their attention on. Who would want to read a comic book when they can check out the internet using their cellular phone? Why spend time at the bookstore when you can be using the latest social networking site? Parents who read comics would naturally get their children into reading as well. But with parents not reading, naturally their children would not read, or if they do get into the comics, they won't be as loyal as previous readers once were. With all of this said and noted, publishers are looking to other sources to make extra revenue, like cartoons, movies, video games, and other forms of media. But that's another discussion. I have one last thing to say about this topic. What do people think? Does sex sell in comics? Will there be sex in comics? Would you buy a comic because the art made it look good? Are women being degraded in comics today? What does the future hold for the industry? Your guess is as good as mine.